incorporate our Spanish-speaking participants. Camila?
Hola, buenas tardes a todos. Para las personas que quieran escuchar el webinar en español, vamos a tener la opción del canal en español en la parte de abajo, como lo ven en la pantalla. En unos minutos Adam nos va a ayudar a activarlo. Apenas lo activen, pueden ir al botón y seleccionar el canal de español, ¿ok? Adam, can you please turn on the interpretation? Thank you.
Maria, did you want to chime in with something?
It was for the slides. I think we cannot see the slides anymore, Adam. So there we go. Great, thanks.
All right. So I will open up with a brief welcome and introduction to LISC and the Beyond 6 Feet Apart Accelerator Program for those participants joining our webinar for the first time. And then we'll hear from an amazing group of panelists who have firsthand knowledge and expertise in the food and beverage industry. And they'll be addressing industry challenges, digital tools, and will offer advice and answer questions from the audience. This discussion will be moderated by Melissa Castro, Director of Business Development at CommonWealth Kitchen, whom I will introduce to you a little later. And then we'll have a panel discussion and we'll open up the floor for questions, first from our Beyond 6 Feet Apart participants, and then provide other members of the audience an opportunity to submit questions from the Q&A or from the chat. So let's jump right in. This webinar is part of, what slide is on? Can you guys see the slides? Adam?
I think we lost Adam. Let me just quickly pull them up on my end. 1 second.
So I'll tell you this while we're pulling that up. This webinar is part of a weekly series, and this series is part of our Beyond 6 Feet Apart Accelerator Program, through which minority-owned businesses work with consulting teams to use a structured digital planning tool to guide them in developing a strategic plan for a safe reopening and or pivot of their business. So a little bit about LISC. LISC stands for the Local Initiative Support Corporation, and we are one of the country's largest community development support organizations. We've been supporting and collaborating with underserved communities for over 35 years to revitalize neighborhoods and bring greater economic opportunity to its residents. Although we're a national organization, we have a deep local root. We have our deep local roots here in Boston, but extend our work to serve the needs of communities across the Commonwealth, having invested more than $300 million in Massachusetts over our 35 years. Everything we invest in is done through an equity lens, and so we prioritize all of our investments, from affordable housing, education, developing entrepreneurs and growing existing businesses, as well as financing programs that connect people to technical assistance and resources to building capacity and stability. One of the most devastating aspects of COVID-19, of the crisis, is that it disproportionately impacts communities of color. And LISC's urgent response was to provide support and relief by driving 4 critical solutions for small business heavily impacted. We offered resources through emergency grants, flexible long-term financing, affordable housing, and stability and technical assistance. So that's a little bit about LISC and some of the areas that we've supported, where we have been supportive during the pandemic. And so now about the program that offers small business owners of color an amazing opportunity to not only reopen safely and strategically, but also to develop ways of taking their business to another level.
Sorry, Tina, just tell me which slide to go to.
The goals of the program, right there. Perfect. Thank you. So the Beyond 6 Feet Apart Accelerator Program was born out of an effort to help small businesses position themselves for growth. However, the pandemic hit in the middle of the program, and the goals and the vision shifted to serve a much greater purpose, which was to help minority-owned small businesses reopen safely and pivot their strategy to win in the new normal. As businesses reopen, they need to be able to adapt their business to the changes in both market and consumer demands, as well as make their business safe and pursue new opportunities. The Beyond 6 Feet Apart program provides a structured and very disciplined planning process that's supported by consulting teams that guide the business in developing a robust implementation and investment plan to ensure that businesses are safe, the business is safe and has the potential to capture lost demand due to the pandemic. We use this program to better understand the challenges that small businesses and owners of color are facing, which helps us to develop impactful tools and programs that we can deploy at scale by the small business ecosystem across the Commonwealth. An additional benefit to the program is that the businesses have the opportunity to develop a network of proactive, strategic business leaders of color who are learning from and supporting one another and making connections to benefit their businesses long term. Next slide. So LISC launched this program with the help of the IXL Center. And this center is a global innovation firm, with consultants and professors dedicated to business innovation, growth, and education. They train and supervise MBA students from across the country to provide consulting services to their clients, which provides their clients with the best of both worlds, a low-cost model and high-quality service. This partnership with the IXL Center is a powerful collaboration. Through it, we're able to create an innovative, digitally enabled program with an audit and planning tool that helps develop strategic analysis and drives results that lead to an implementation plan that is in alignment with each client's need. One of the most beneficial aspects of this partnership is that the creation of this program can be scaled for use by other providers. Next slide. So what you're looking at here these are the businesses that are in our current cohort. We have approximately 27 businesses in this cohort who have been divided into 4 industry sectors: retail, food and beverage, personal and professional services. They're matched with a team of 3 to 4 MBA student consultants. And again, these consultants are supervised by expert consultants who help to guide them through the process, the team through the process and their journey. The IXL Center has relationships with a wide range of colleges and universities that partner with the center to allow their MBA students to gain firsthand knowledge and experience with expert consultants. Next slide. So with the idea of creating the Beyond 6 Feet Apart program for impact at scale, it was important for LISC to engage technical assistance providers in our program. So what better way to train the trainer than to invite the provider to participate in the program and to bring along a small business from their service district to reap the benefits of the program. This affords the TA provider a comprehensive understanding of the process, the digital tools, and outcome recommendations when later providing support to additional businesses in their district. Technical assistance providers also provide feedback, which helps us make adjustments to better adapt the program to offer it at scale. And so we're always very excited to have them as part of our program and to receive their insight. So the structured planning process that I mentioned earlier, it allows each team to go through a comprehensive planning process that will deliver tools and strategies specific to each business's need. Each business begins with an onboarding and an assessment process that will identify the risks and challenges associated with getting back to work safely. They then adapt and work to map a solution that addresses the challenges and unsafe points that they discovered along the way, the journey. The team then helps the business to pivot and rethink their methodology and strategy to be able to take advantage of new trends and opportunities. And finally, together they craft a cost-effective implementation plan that includes a communication plan, digital capacity building, and a financial investment plan that includes an ROI. And here are the webinars, the weekly webinars that we offered throughout the 5-week program. And these webinars are helpful in a number of ways. One way is that it helps us to shed light on and to understand the real world issues and challenges that small businesses are facing in reopening. And 2, the webinars allow LISC and the IXL team to take what we've learned from these sessions and to incorporate the knowledge back into the program planning process. So that's an overview of the Beyond 6 Feet Apart program. And so you'll find more information on our website at liscboston.org, which we'll provide later. And now for the real reason that you joined us tonight, I'd like to introduce you to this evening's moderator, Melissa Castro. Melissa is a the Business Development Director at CommonWealth Kitchen, which is the Greater Boston's nonprofit food business incubator. At the CommonWealth Kitchen, Melissa oversees access to market opportunities across food service and consumer packaged goods by vetting and assessing opportunities for entrepreneurs who are predominantly women, immigrants, and people of color. Melissa holds a bachelor's in marketing from the University of Massachusetts Amherst and an MBA from Babson College. Melissa spent the last 9 years before business school in developing marketing and digital marketing, focused on the financial services sector. In 2017, she launched La Conexión, if I said that correctly, a Latino marketplace that curates cultural experiences and offers food-centric consumers an opportunity to enjoy fresh, authentic, and high-quality Latin foods. Melissa's goal is to diversify the leadership in the food industry by providing entrepreneurs with more opportunities to showcase their skills and celebrate their cultures. And with no further ado, Melissa Castro, the floor is yours.
Melissa, we can't hear you. You might be on one of the other channels. Make sure you're in the main room for the interpretation.
Maybe you can just quit the interpretation and bring her in.
Sure, let me. There we go. Melissa, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. Hi, everyone, and thank you, Tina, and the LISC Boston team for having me today and organizing such a stellar panel. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Melissa Castro. Like Tina mentioned, I work at CommonWealth Kitchen as a business development director, and I'll be your moderator for today. I'd like to start tonight's discussion with brief introductions of our panelists, followed by a very rich dialogue around how the global health crisis has largely impacted the food and beverage industry, what businesses are currently doing to pivot, and what resources are available to help them get through the pandemic. Following our discussion, we'll open up the floor to Q&A from our audience members. Why don't we start introductions with the fearless leader that I get the pleasure of working with every day, Ms. Jen Fagel. Jen is the executive director and co-founder of CommonWealth Kitchen. CommonWealth Kitchen is on a mission to build a new food ecosystem grounded in racial, social, and economic justice, providing a mix of shared use kitchens combined with wraparound business and technical support. Jen is extremely passionate about community economic development that leads to asset building, wealth creation, and meaningful investments in low-income communities. Welcome, Jen. We're also joined by James Kwan. James is the CEO of Figment's Digital Creative Marketing, a 7-figure full-stack marketing agency with over 20 years of experience, where he helps companies go digital through brand storytelling, interactive solutions, and growth marketing strategies. James is what we call a serial entrepreneur who has started over 9 companies and has been an investor and advisor for another 5. He has degrees into culinary arts, graphic design, entrepreneurship, marketing, and theology. Last but not least, we also have Maria Pujin. Maria is an innovation consultant at the IXL Center, an innovation consulting management firm. She has experience providing consulting to startups, small businesses, and Fortune 500 companies across a number of industries. Maria has been the food and beverage personal services coach for the Beyond 6 Feet Apart Accelerator, and is currently coaching 8 of the food and beverage companies that are in the present cohort. She has degrees in finance, economics, and the global perspectives. Welcome to all the panelists and for being here today. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of dive right into it. I think in my opinion, there's no doubt that the COVID-19 pandemic has wreaked havoc across our communities, our families, and in particular, small businesses across the globe. I think in particular, the food and beverage industry has been largely impacted as businesses have been forced to make difficult decisions, pivot, reimagine how to drive sales for their businesses, communicating with their staff members, right? At times, not being able to source what they need. I mean, the list goes on and on. Today, we're joined by our expert panelists to discuss the challenges these businesses are experiencing, how they're weathering the storm, and what resources and tools are available to help them get through this this difficult time. For many of them, it's a race against time, right? Can they outlast the shutdown that we're currently in, recoup the money that they've lost, and be able to open again or continue to keep their doors open? I'd like to start the conversation with Jen. And I know, Jen, we've been in the trenches together for some months now, but could you share with us what some of the challenges you have been seeing that are specific to the food and beverage industry, but more specifically, the challenges that are affecting these bigger corporations, the institutions that we work with, and the food systems, and how this has a trickle-down effect to the businesses that you and I work with every day?
Sure. Thank you, Melissa. Happy to be here with everybody and excited that our CommonWealth Kitchen team has been able to be a part, and our family of businesses a part of this amazing community. So we're excited to be a part of it, as much as we are incredibly saddened by what's happening in the world right now and how incredibly painful it is for so many people, and in particular in the food and beverage industry, where, you know, they're relatively small businesses that we all work with. They are mom and pops. They are, you know, this is about their family and their traditions and their cultures and their community. And like, that's why they get into this work. And so to see so many businesses that, you know, overnight just lost all of their customers, they had to close down. Those who have been able to try to keep going because there's online sales opportunities, or they're trying to find where the customers are and do the best that they can, are just finding that it's you know, being the hamster on the wheel. Like, it just, getting traction in this moment is so difficult. And for us, we saw it at the very beginning of it, because we saw the office buildings starting to close. And so therefore, all of our business owners that are food trucks and caterers that are out there on the front lines directed to consumers, all seeing what was about to happen. And then we saw our catering companies all starting to lose their events, right? So between May and September is when most catering companies, that's when they do probably 80% of their business. And just one after the other, close, nothing happening. And no idea of what was going to come. And then immediately we saw when the colleges started to close as well. And we have a lot of companies that we work with where we're working with them on this multi-channel strategy, right? Think about retail, think about wholesale, think about direct to consumer, right? Because the more things you're doing, as while it can be complicated, it also can be a way to hedge your bets against a case like this where the world falls apart. And so those who have direct to consumer are still sort of making it, but everybody else is really, really struggling. And so when the college accounts closed, for us, that was what we saw, was like, at that point, just everything was shutting down. And so for us, we really started thinking about what's going to happen with restaurants, what's going to happen with the bodegas and the corner stores, what's going to happen with the food trucks that used to be downtown. What on earth can you possibly do now? And so, you know, sadly, a lot of the initial work has been, you know, put your mask on, quite literally, right? But also put your organizational and your business mask on. Like, don't spend money that you don't have. Like, money after money, good money after bad, bad money after good. Like, that's a real problem. And we know everybody on this phone call are a bunch of amazing entrepreneurs and are convinced that they're going to be the ones that are going to make it and have the next best thing. And that's what drove them to get to the place that they've been. And it is the thing that has the potential to keep to bankrupt them if they're not careful on how they go forward. And I say that very intentionally because it's real. And what we have seen from the COVID crisis is this is not going to happen. This is not going to get better in the near future. It's going to take a long time. And what we don't know, obviously, in the food and beverage industry, people are eating differently. They're eating at home. They're cooking more. Every office building is talking about potentially never having everybody come back. And so I think for all of us trying to understand this huge domino effect of what the COVID crisis has meant into the food and beverage industry for forever, likely, and fundamental shifts that are going to happen. I think all of us have to really be attentive to what the future is going to look like, and as hard as it is to be patient in this moment, to think through what your strategies are going to be. Like, this is not a time to run. This is a time to crawl, or to take a break and to look and to do things like this IXL program.
Thank you, Jen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of businesses are pivoting at this time. They're rethinking who they are as a brand. How do they operate differently? Jen, I know we've been doing a lot of work for the community. Do you mind sharing with our guests today the pivot that CommonWealth Kitchen took? More specifically, I'd like for you to share, the thought process behind the inclusive strategy that we led, and including a lot of members and other businesses in our.
Sure. I mean, honestly, Melissa, you're one of the architects and leaders of it. And so, while I'm happy to talk about it, I also don't want to take credit where credit is not due. But I think, we, like everybody else, when the world fell apart, we had to look at ourselves and say, well, now what? And like other entrepreneurs, I think we looked at ourselves and said, well, we can't just sit back and wait for the world to get better. Entrepreneurs don't do that. We're problem solvers. We want to fix things. We want to get in the fight. We want to be helpful. Mm-hmm. And so for the CommonWealth Kitchen team, we started looking around and saying, well, wait a minute. We've got chefs, we've got kitchens, we've got stuff sitting in our freezer that was supposed to go to Harvard and MIT and wherever else it was supposed to go. And it's delicious and it's beautiful. And this is a moment when a lot of people are hurting and a lot of people are struggling, and the world response around things like food security is not one that is particularly diverse. It is particularly culturally competent. And so we looked at our networks and our community and said, well, you know what, we could actually be a part of a solution by putting our business owners to work in service of feeding their community. And so the work that we did with this program we called Common Table was really an intention of just simply saying, we want to lead with equity and intention. That's who we are. It's what we've always done. And we want to continue to do that. We want to lead with the business owners who are of the communities that are the most impacted by this, and put people back to work to feed their neighbors. And so what that actually looked like was CommonWealth Kitchen ourselves, and through multiple companies of ours, actually making prepared meals. That Melissa was leading the work to get out into the community, to go to feeding sites all over greater Boston. We also wanted to put our restaurant community back to work. Historically, that's not something we've done, but we all know restaurants are like the bread and butter, the anchors of our communities. And if those restaurants don't come back, everybody else involved in the IXL program that are doing the hair salons and the nail salons and you need the restaurants to help bring people to the community. And so we know that those restaurants are core to any kind of what economic recovery looks like. And so we decided we also needed to put money into the restaurants. And so we were able to get some funding from the city of Boston to pay 14 Black and Latinx owned restaurants to feed neighbors in need. Each restaurant got paid $10 a meal, about 500 meals a week on average. So several $1,000s a week that they were getting. And I saw it because I was writing the check. So it was impressive to see how much money went through the bank account. It kind of felt like water, but it also just felt like, oh my God. And so I think the numbers, Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the numbers in 3 months, we did almost 90,000 meals.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that number is continuing to grow with the continued work. Yeah.
And that, it's unbelievable when I think about the numbers of people that we were able to support, and feeding them, beautiful mole sauce and West African sunflower seed sauce and local fish and local fruits and vegetables that were integrated into products. Incredible what we were able to do. And I look at the team and I think, how on earth did we pull that off? Right. And this is like what entrepreneurs do. We all do this and we find our way. And for us, I think the core was leaning into our strengths. What was our core competency? We knew, Melissa, you know this, we knew we were not distribution people, right? So the first thing you and I looked at is said, well, who's doing distribution? Because that ain't us. We don't have a truck. I'm not putting in my car more than once. Only once at 4 a.m. am I waking up, right, to do that?
I mean, I did it every week, but that's okay.
Damn, I did try. Right. But so for us, the lessons in that work was understanding that we as an organization had a brand. I could go out and get some money. Our staff was really good at cooking amazing things and almost anything. Right. So who did we bring in? Jamaica Me Hungry chef who, he grew up in the events in Jamaica, working making any kind of food you could possibly imagine at scale. So we just leaned into what we know with a different audience. And I think as everybody's thinking about their pivots, an important thing is to know what your core competency is, what you're not good at, This is not a time to try to learn what you're not good at and really try to figure out where do you fit. And so that's the work we've been trying to do and continue to try to do. And really as a way to help our business community continue to find resources and hope and that if we can keep them holding on, that at some point the world will come back and the businesses can still be there.
It's been a great learning experience for everyone on the team. To say the least.
Yeah.
Maria, I know you've also been working very closely with entrepreneurs. You know, I'd be curious to hear some of the pivot strategies that you've encountered. Which ones have worked and which ones haven't?
Sure. First of all, I just want to say that, wow, I'm impressed. That's great work from the CommonWealth Kitchen. I think these are the times where you really start seeing how we can help each other for the entire ecosystem to go forward. And so I just want to congratulate you for that hard work.
Thank you.
Well done. So yeah, just kind of like picking up on what Jen was saying, I think this whole snowball effect on the ecosystem is something to pay attention to, because these restaurants were affected by the fact, for example, the traffic. If they were located in an area where they would have office spaces next to them, different people commuting, they will have that as a source of demand coming daily to their stores, right? To the restaurants. Vice versa, the other retail stores or personal services were needing those restaurants, as you were saying, Jen, to bring people to their services. And so who needs who, right? It's the type of question we ask ourselves. And I think in this specific topic, one of the challenges we saw as we were even designing this project itself was, yet you can be as safe as possible, which was our first phase on like the adapt version of the module that we were saying. We have 2 weeks on focusing on that. But once you're safe, still it might not be enough for you to continue to attract demand to your store or to your restaurant or to your different businesses. And so we were asking ourselves, what are some of these main challenges that they're facing? And I think it comes really down to one of them is identifying the new needs that are in the market. Because usually, we have a product, we have a need, we have a target, and then we go for it. Right. In this new world, we're basically changing those needs and they're new needs. And so how do we adapt to these new needs? And it might even be a different target market. And so, for example, now if we were supposed to, offer food to people around our neighborhood, now we have to maybe target moms at home, for example, and that's a new market for us. And so how do we tackle this new market that we've never targeted before? So we saw, some challenges in terms of identifying new needs, identifying the right target segment for those needs. But not only that, but also the fact that when we create all of these new pivots, we can get excited about different pivots, and how to really make them happen. But part of the challenge was also how to validate these different pivots. Many of the things that businesses, especially small business owners, face is they are not sure whether they're prepared, whether they have the right resources, the right money now to make it happen. And so on our coaching sessions behind the scenes, we were trying to really nail it down to options and pivots that were not reinventing the wheel. We're trying to really analyze, across the value chain, what are the different weaknesses that we see in these different businesses so that we can see in the value chain, what else can we do? How else can we partner? Just to bring just one innovation concept that we do in our Excel Center, we basically say that innovation sometimes not necessarily creating something completely new, but looking across your value chain, how else can you partner? How else can you reoffer what you're offering? And create new value in new ways, but also capturing this value. And so once we define that, then, it's more clear for the businesses that it's not necessarily something completely crazy. And that gives a little bit more confidence into where to go and what pivots to target. And then the other challenge is, not go fully blasting off your new opportunities, but go pilot by pilot, right? Trying to test out little by little, because that was one of the biggest fears as well. Do I have to try all of these new things at the same time? Where do I start? What do I do? And it really comes down to, and I think we're going to go more into this later, but finding the way for us to pivot quickly, iterate quickly on these ideas by testing out in the market, small focus groups with families to see how people are behaving. Does this make sense? Instead of waiting until we have this idea that we've been planning for 3 months, and then once we try to flesh it out, it might be not even relevant at the moment, right? Yeah. So with that, Melissa, I can jump into some examples. I don't know if you want me to share some examples that we saw, but for example, one of the main things is the biggest trend I think right now is do it yourself. So do it yourself at home became the new way of rethinking these restaurants. And so if you used to go there, now they have to come to you, right? And so how do I still keep my experience, my DNA in my business in your home? And so this conversation, for example, happened with Suya Joint. They are an African cuisine, and they have all these amazing different types of meals that they offer, but they also have a story behind. And going there, it's and talking to her, talking to everyone else in the restaurant might give you that experience. And so rethinking, how can I get meal kits for my business back home, right? And so how can I bring this experience as well and tell my story? So she went into like a little step further on exploring a little bit of retail. And this we discussed with Jen in a previous conversation, like, how risky is it for businesses to start putting more products out there? And so the idea, I don't think it's stacking up yourself of new products just because that might be the way to get more sales, but rather thinking that what's a complementary option, complementary offering that I already do, that I already have, that I can just repackage, repurpose, and extract, a new demand or a new market. And so that was sort of like the thinking behind Suya Joint, and they came up with also the idea not only of having meal kits to go home, but also having different sauces. And I think we're gonna elaborate more on this experience. I guess Cecilia will be able to tell more of the story from her heart. But it's just an example of how do-it-yourself has become so strong. And so the same case was with Sweet Tea's Bakery. They have, amazing pastries that I'm dying to try. But one of the different ideas we came up with was, nowadays more than ever, James has kids at home, and many of you have kids at home, and more you get busy with your day-to-day job, and how do I entertain my kids? How do I entertain my family? How do I do home events, right? And so do-it-yourself kits on decoration pieces, for example. So you send an amazing cake home, and you send a way to decorate it. And so brainstorming this idea with Karen from LISC, she was always saying, like, this could be so big in corporate level as well. And so what if they, send us X amount of cupcakes for LISC, and then everyone could have an online event, and we can all decorate our cupcakes and things like this. So you're creating new experiences from home, right? And so do it yourself more and more becomes more relevant and brings that presence back to your house, right? And so the same thing with, for example, baking poke. And so what we were discussing with that team is sometimes you go and you buy a one-time meal, and this goes along with the delivery sort of things that we might want to talk later on. But when you go to a restaurant, why not have the option of, hey, Maria, take 3 different poke bowls and you can make them at home versus just having one that you eat at that moment, right? And so bundling, volume, like, can I have more than just one? And I keep it at home, and I create, one for my roommate and for a friend and whatnot. And so you have different options to have that poke at home and not only be a one-time shop. So what we want to do is really, how can I make them buy more from me without being, that salesy person, buy, but rather like something that's convenient for the person that's taking it home. So those were some of the things we were seeing. And of course, more and more around the digital strategies, which I think we're going to move into later as well, but understanding how we can repurpose our business digitally. James might have even more knowledge on this, but these companies that sometimes have a website and they try their best, right, to really have a good website, but it might not be clear for the customer. It might not have the clear offering ready for them. So there's a simple thing as being lost in translation in terms of the customer experience. And so, for example, I was asking questions to Sweet Tea's Bakery, to Delectable Desires, asking, I'm gonna role play a consumer, and I'm going to your page. I'm not sure if I can buy this. Like, you're telling me these amazing things that you guys do, but I don't see it, right? I'm not able to click and say, I want this from you. How can I get it from you? Simple communications, like what I do, how I do it, where you can get it from, right?
And so I know Teresa's been giving us a lot of positive feedback from a lot of the coaching. But that's a great segue, Maria, into kind of the digital conversation that I want to have. Really, there's no doubt, and we all know that more consumers are purchasing their foods and beverages online. But what I've seen entrepreneurs struggle with is this digital transformation, right? They understand that they need to have e-commerce. They understand that they need to make sure that their websites are enabled with third-party delivery platforms, but they themselves don't know how to do any of the technical support behind it. James, curious to hear with your experience, how do you begin to think about digital transformation in a time of crisis, specifically for the businesses who just didn't have this set up beforehand?
Yeah, that's a great one. And thank you, Melissa. Thank you also, LISC team, for having me here. I feel honored to be a part of this panel. So we were the ones who were holding the digital transformation signs. Digital transformation is near. Digital transformation is near. Save yourselves. So I feel a little bit like there's a little bit of overwhelmingness of needing to continue to share that story out there. What Maria said is exactly right, that right now is a time to test and iterate. And it's something actually most of the people attending are probably in early stage. And there never has been a time where the playing field has been so leveled, where you are more skilled and capable of starting not just one offering, but 5 different offerings at the same time, and then trying to see which one works. Right? You can pivot that quickly. You can start to iterate that quickly. It's actually I got invited to speak at HubSpot this year, which actually should be next month. I think there's free tickets if you want to check it out. But my talk is on how to start 5 new offerings instead of one, and it's all about market validation and testing, because I like to start things, and that's what I know. But for digital transformation, absolutely. This has been something we've, a lot of people are talking about digital transformation, but it's been around for the last decade, right? So the idea of turning even the simplest conversations, the simplest interactions into more streamlined communications, more streamlined automation. And it's easy to do. That all the tools exist and they've been around. So, it's not like we had to invent these, over the last 3 to 6 months.
Right.
So I think there's some kind of key things I would recommend looking at. The classic 3 stages: understand the story, understand those needs, understand who you need to bring those needs to. But again, we can start to validate and test more quickly today than ever before. Build the world that's going to live in. Obviously, the web is going to be the place where most people are going to engage and find you. There are amazing tools out there today that are way better than they were 10 years ago. I used to steer people away from things like Wix and Squarespace. Today, they're pretty incredible, and you could do them by yourself. The DIY on the business side of things is as good as making your own cake in person at home. And then constantly getting people to engage. And this is a process that most businesses have not engaged with, creating this kind of automated workflow, automated system. As people get in, they start to engage with you. Making sure that you're connect with them on a regular basis. You don't need to do that manual anymore. You can automate a lot of that process. You just need the right tools in place. HubSpot obviously is a good one. It's sometimes expensive for small businesses, but there's lots of other ones out there. ClickFunnels being one, ActiveCampaign being another one. So I think it comes back to all those things are just tools. It comes back to something that Jen was saying about fundamentals. This is classic marketing, right? This is classic fundamental. It's like sports. It's like when you're struggling, you just go back to your fundamentals, work on your dribbling, work on your free throws. There's communications is not new. Understanding your customer and asking them what they want is not new. Engaging with them and constantly continuing to iterate on what you're doing and find out what's working, what's not working. That's not new. We're just able to do it a lot quicker these days. And so, we're at COVID happened at an interesting time where I think that there's opportunity to leapfrog. Yeah.
So let's stay there for a second, James, because I'm on phone calls with a number of entrepreneurs and restaurant owners, and they understand that the digital transformation needs to happen, but they're having a hard time deciphering, do I need to learn these new skills? Do I need to learn another platform? Or can I outsource or offboard this to someone else, like a consultant like yourself? I feel like I always go back and forth. For me, I know my brand better than anyone else, and I'm going to market it better than the consultant next door. So
Yeah.
what advice do you have for businesses who are kind of struggling with that decision?
Yeah, that's a good one too. I use the analogy of building a house to building a website and building marketing often.
Mm-hmm.
And Can you learn how to architect? Maybe, sure. Can you learn how to do plumbing and electrical and order the right contractors and know when things fall apart? There are some places where even contractors are going to hire the right inspectors and things. And so you have to really look at your time, cost, benefit across the board. There are things that, like Wix, like Squarespace, you could probably figure it out. I feel like that's easy. But when it starts to get into communications automation, when it starts to get into brand strategy thinking, when it the hours, dollars per hour starts to increase beyond 10, 20, 50, 100, right? These are areas where you may want to have somebody who's fairly skilled in doing that. Yeah, it depends on, what your time is worth. I mean, if you're looking at your schedule and you're already working 10 hours a day, these days, and trying to learn how to design and develop email probably is not going to be the best use of your time. Maybe it is. Maybe there's some areas that you should outsource some parts of your time already, right? So maybe it's going to take you $20 an hour to hire, that person to write that email and send it out. But you can pay somebody $10 an hour or $15 an hour to, stock the shelf or, take the delivery out. So you have to weigh all of those things by that hourly, and then and just kind of do that analysis there. I think that's the classic way to do it. And right now, I think everybody is trying to squeeze in more time in the day, but it's just hard to do. It's impossible to get more time.
So let me ask you what the entrepreneurs that I work with would want me to ask you. What about social media? This is a pain point for everyone at this point. Should they be outsourcing it, or should they kind of work with someone else who's an expert in that field? Social media managers are charging $2,000 to $3,000 a month to post twice a day. I mean, I come from the advertising world, and that's still a lot of money for these small businesses. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, if you're paying an agency $2,000 to $3,000 to post twice a month, you should fire them. I think that's probably too much. There are agencies out there that would post every day for you for $100 a month, $200 a month. Seems reasonable, but they're usually not so great in the messaging and the strategy. Again, I think that initial piece, getting that right first, is probably a little bit more valuable. But I'd say social media, just like digital transformation, it's not a question anymore. You have to do it.
Right.
I would always get some pushback from business owners like, oh, my the target I'm going after, their businesses, they're not on social media, or we're not going to use Facebook. It's like, guess what? They have Facebook accounts. They have grandchildren. They need to, they want to see pictures of them, and your ad can show up when they show up. So there are some absolutely basic things that you can do yourself. I think posting is easy. You can start to create a dialogue, be honest, and you could do it kind of on your own time. There are things like trying to join groups, start discussions on your own, create the page. Facebook makes it pretty easy to do those things yourself.
Right.
Once it starts getting complicated, once you want to buy ads, once you want to start to segment lists. And,
is that when we call you?
Lookalikes. Yeah, call us. There's lots of great social agencies out there. We're just one of them, but there are lots of contractors out there that can help out. Do you want to learn it yourself? The truth is, you can spend $50 to $250 to buy a class, which is going to take you about a dozen hours to try to learn it. And then you're going to come out of it with a shed that might fall down, right? To use that same analogy. So there might be some expediency to, just fork up the couple $100 to get it going.
Okay, I appreciate that. And that's helpful. Why don't we shift gears to third-party delivery platforms, which I feel have been kind of all over the press lately. COVID-19 has really kind of urged everyone to use these apps, the Grubhubs, the Uber Eats, the DoorDashes of the world. Maria, James, or Daniel, curious to hear if you could share some of the pros and cons of these delivery platforms. They're very beneficial for the customer, but I also want people to be able to understand the transparency behind it and how it affects the restaurants that we're working with.
Sure, I can go ahead and get a head start. So I think, of course, now in the pandemic, it's been the go-to. You know, when you're thinking about opening new channels, everyone is thinking, you know, I have to be on delivery. I have to be on delivery. But what people are not realizing is how impactful this is for businesses. Having a 30% commission per each meal that you order it's something just that, you know, when you make the math, it doesn't really make sense. Like you ask yourself, should I even be here, right? Should I even be putting myself out there? And so, but yes, as you're saying, there's definitely, you know, constant pros of having it. Of course, the positive things of being on this delivery platforms is you are making yourself aware, right? Everyone is out there, will see you. I've been myself, I scrolled down restaurants that I had no idea existed before. I'm like, oh, this one is a new one, you know? And so it's definitely a marketing platform. You market your restaurant there and they have different ways of offering it. For example, in Uber Eats, promotions and things like that you can do. But still they get a cut from it, right? But on the bright side, I guess it's that thing of being able to have a bigger access to a bigger market. On the other side, though, even if it's a new market, there's still some limitations for it. Because, for example, I Love Milkshakes has a delivery applications, but if I look at it, I'm based in a different region, I'm not going to be able to get their product because I'm not in their delivery region, right? And so there's constraints on that. You have to make sure that you select the region according to, like, of course, where you are, the quality of the food, whether or not it's going to arrive well, because they sell milkshakes. If they deliver, you know, an hour away, it's not going to work, right? And so there's limitations in terms of how much of a market you can still reach. But still, it's a platform that's opening you a new channel, right? And then, of course, the negatives is that even if you are able to do different promotions, these different things, getting the cut from them does not necessarily help you out as much. Though some of the main, like I would say, like 3 main things that they look into is, you know, when you are deciding on whether or not you should choose A, B, C, D, like what type of platform is, first the market share, like how big of a market share do they cover? You know, some of them are more stronger than others. And so, you know, you decide, for example, Grubhub is like around 41% versus Postmates, which is 5%. But then when you put on the balance the cost, you see that Grubhub, Uber Eats are about, 25 to 30, while Postmates and Caviar are more around the 10 to 15% commission as a cost of the restaurant. Not only that, but you're also having a cost of a customer itself. And so just to wrap it up and give the mic to the others, there have been some initiatives that people are trying, and I think we discussed this before as well, but in other states, they're trying to put a cap on these commissions to at least sort of control, because it's, even for the pandemic, and I know they, for example, Postmates, I think it was, they were trying to cut it down for X amount of days, or making something like, if you sign up during this time, we'll give you the first 30 days for free, things like that to be more helpful. But still is an issue, right? It's not the biggest glory in the world. And so there's still people thinking, can I have my own delivery system? How much will that cost me? So there are a lot of CapEx things involved in there. Uber Eats will offer you, I can put you in my platform to market you, and then you pay me like a $15 commission, but 50% commission, but then you can use your own delivery. So will that work? It's a little bit of a win and lose. It's a crazy sort of like situation. But still, there's other initiatives going out here of people trying to push them to go pick it up. Help these businesses pick it up yourself. Don't just depend on delivery. Walk, use your legs, come and help us, because not only by ordering online are you going to be helping a business.
Right. Yeah, no, great point. I think it's also interesting to see how there's a lot of small businesses that are trying to be that solution right now, and who's going to kind of come up with the next Uber Eats that's not affecting businesses in such a negative way. So I know we're short on time, but I do have a last question for everyone on the panel. I think a day in COVID is like a month in real time. But how do you envision the food and beverage industry kind of unfolding? And with every crisis or catastrophe, there's also opportunities in them, right? What opportunities do you see for businesses of color right now at this moment? Jen, do you want to start?
Sure. Man, it's, I think the trick in this moment, particularly for business owners of color, is how to not be a one-trick pony, how it's not just a one-time thing. We see this we saw this a lot before COVID and before the George Floyd murder, where people would look at our organization and our business owners and say, well, you know, you meet these criteria, so cool, we'll do something with you once, and then we'll talk about you forever. And so we want to avoid that. So we spend a lot of time trying to talk to people about authentic relationships. And in some ways, this goes back to even the stuff that Maria and James are talking about in terms of building kind of brand loyalty and relationships with people, for them to understand who you are as a business owner, and therefore the why that they want to support your business. So when I think about some of the businesses where we've seen success, you know, they're businesses like, if people know 50 Kitchen over in Dorchester, he's got this really powerful story. He opened like a month before the pandemic hit. The combination of those things has led him into a place where he has now got this incredible brand loyalty for what he's doing. That's been really powerful. And it means that the Uber Eats and all those things are less important to him because he's built this connection to the customer. You know, and similarly, we've been trying to talk to people to say, get on those platforms at the start, but then immediately when you have that customer say, you know what you could do to support me? Yep. Get rid of that and do this other thing. So I do think that there's some ways where, you know, again, like leaning into your relationships is really important. And I think within that is trying to suss out where the real opportunities are from the looky-loos who are like, well, this is a moment where I'm looking for that one black, you know, immigrant woman who's just got out of prison, who, you know, who meets every possible criteria so that I never have to do this again. Right? Like, that's not systems change. Right. And I think where we're at and looking at this and what we're excited about with things like the digital work that LISC and IXL are trying to do is because this is about fundamental change. We gotta work differently. We gotta think differently. The food and beverage industry has been, structural racism has been there, you know, for way too long. Right. The structure of the economics does not work. So we know that, like, we got to start to work harder on across the board. It's the distribution with the Uber Eats. It's also the distribution with the Cisco's and the other guys. It's the buyers who don't understand. And I do think that this is a moment where, if we all can start to learn how to talk about this differently and be open and direct. And Melissa, you've heard me say this, is that I feel like we as an organization, when we switched from please work with our companies to you need to work with our companies. Right. Just that was so powerful in terms of the relationships we've been able to build. Mm-hmm. So I think for everybody who's out there, this is a time to be confident and not afraid, to know your core business and your core competency, and to celebrate and lean into it. Like, I love what Maria talked about with Cecilia and Stuya Join about saying, celebrate the amazing cuisine that you have. Like, that's your why. Right. And so go there. And so I do think the cautionary tale for me is just like, don't get excited that, oh man, like half of the restaurants are closing, I'm going to open a restaurant. Right? Or like, oh my God, like I'm going to pivot everything I'm doing because online sales is the thing, even though that's not what I've ever done and my product doesn't work and nothing else. Like, so stay in your lane, understand your core competency, and then really try to lean into where those values aligned partners are going to be, because that's what's going to hold you for the long term, right? What you're looking for is you're continuing on to think about what's your 5-year strategy, not your 6-month strategy. Yes, you got to solve for 6 months, but if that's all you're solving for, you're back to the hamster wheel that I talked about.
You're in trouble. Yeah, we have a lot of work to do, Jen. I know. James, how about you? Some advice?
Yeah. So from the beginning, I've been preaching the communications is arguably the best weapon, the best tool that you have, but it is a double-edged sword. You know, there are plenty of big companies that are doing it terribly. And I think we're a lot more forgiving to the small companies out there. So I've been trying to encourage every small business, update your website and have some sort of COVID messaging on there that's just reminds people that you are a small business. It's like, hey, don't forget about us. We're a small business too. Don't you want us to be here? You know, we are part of this community. We care about this community. gift cards, great, fine. But there's other things that you can do. Hey, we're trying out this new thing, or we're trying to get feedback from you. We want to hear from you. Those are the types of activities that just keep you on front and center for the community out there. Remind people, for minority businesses, remind them you're a minority business. This is, it just I think there's a lot of reasons why this coincides, but Black Lives Matters is a movement. It's still very real. People care about minority businesses, care about minorities, period, more probably than they did 6 months ago, 8 months ago, fortunately and unfortunately. So remind them that you're a minority business. Remind them, you have kind of this superpower if you're a small minority business that gives you this leverage that maybe you didn't have before. And like I said earlier, I think this time especially just levels the playing field. You can make mistakes and you kind of get forgiven, quickly by them. When I've ordered from lots of different restaurants over the last 6 months, and it's surprising, when they make a mistake now. Before 6 months ago, I'd be like, oh, they forgot this thing, or they're 15 minutes late, or whatever. Now I'm like, I get it. They're probably out of their mind right now, struggling, and I'm gonna order from them again, right? So this playing field is so leveled. You can fail much faster. You can learn from your mistakes. You can try a lot of things. So I would absolutely just encourage all those small businesses to keep communicating, keep listening, to your customers, to the community, what they're asking for, and then just keep trying.
I love that. Thank you, James.
Yeah.
Maria.
So I think I will just wrap it up with collaboration. I think is one of the biggest things that for me has been like a insight throughout this entire program. Why collaboration? Because it has never been so relevant, the fact of helping each other out. It goes to the point of both Jen and James of saying, Jen was saying, create relationships. James is saying, communicate, but also it involves the two sides of that ecosystem, us as consumers, and them as business owners that are trying to go forward. And collaboration comes in so many different nice words, such as loyalty programs, like joint loyalty programs. There's a case we can talk right now with Big Fin Tuna, but Big Fin Poke, where they were saying, I'm gonna partner up with these other guys so that if they buy from me, they get a discount there, right? Or can I have a pop-up store in your store? Can we share the space? Can we, collaborate together? If they buy, 2 things from our place and 1 from yours, they get something free. Many other things can come to mind when we think about collaboration, but I think we're seeing it not only in a minority level, but we're seeing it in bigger corporations as well. They're trying to find ways of collaborating, and we're getting this traction, and more, if we learn how to collaborate together, I think it's a way where we can go faster. Like we say always, partner to go faster. If I don't have it, ask for help. If I don't think I need something, give it to someone that does need it. And so all of these different ways of thinking creatively, how else can I partner across my value chain, will help you, avoid those huge investments, avoid going crazy about, I don't have this, how do I do this? Ask for help, partner up, collaborate with each other. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest ways of connecting more dots and getting more opportunities to your businesses. For sure.
Thank you. And they should join the next accelerator, right?
Yes, of course. Of course.
Well, thank you all so much for your expert advice, and just, for caring and being a change agent in this community. I'm gonna switch it over to Tina, who I know is probably staring me down, because I know we want to open up the floor for Q&A. And, I want to encourage the participants from the accelerator program to share their stories, and hoping that you can inspire another business to really change what they're doing and stay open through this pandemic. Thank you. Tina? Oh, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
So no, I'm not staring you down. This was such a great conversation. We can go on for hours. But actually, I'm going to turn this over to Adam, who has the chat box, and he will funnel all the questions to you. If that's good, Adam.
Yeah, sure thing. So we've had James kind of answering questions as we go, actually. So he's answered some questions in the chat. There were a couple of them, let me check them out, about social media. So maybe we can open the floor about that a little bit. So a couple of the questions were, what are the best apps to manage social media, right? So Instagram, Facebook, even Pinterest, for example. So James, do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, sure. There are lots of different tools out there. Hootsuite is a great one. Buffer is another one like Hootsuite. HubSpot has a social scheduler kind of built into the system. So we're a HubSpot shop, and I'm a HubSpot fanboy, so definitely Kool-Aid drinker. But there's all these tools added into HubSpot, which makes it nice. There's email and landing pages and all that stuff. But why this is helpful is you can spend 1 hour writing 10 social posts, 15 social posts, hit go, and it'll schedule for the rest of the month, and you don't need to think about it, which is amazing, right? And it feels like you're active constantly, and you're engaging like every other day, which is awesome. It's so good. That's exactly what these services like 99, I think it's called 99 Social, they'll charge you a few $100s a month, and they'll just schedule those social posts for you. That's pretty good. There's some other tools. I'll drop some links in the chat here. There's another tool that I like. It's like unlimited design services every month. So a few $100s, you get very inexpensive resource to design stuff for you, potentially develop things on your website and make changes for you, write for you. So they might write those social, but you don't want to do those social posts. You could spend a few $100s to that. I think those are all really incredibly affordable services to just kind of grind out the basic things that you should be doing.
James, you had mentioned earlier that HubSpot was very expensive. How do we get discounts for some of these businesses of color that are having a challenging time, affording it?
So good. You talk to an agency who can broker that for you, like us. We can do that.
Perfect.
Yeah. So HubSpot typically costs somewhere between $50 a month, which is okay. It's fine. It's much better. It used to be that version. I was like, don't buy that. $200 a month, $400 a month. That's like, you start to get there. And then the real like magic happens at like $800 a month, which is a lot for a lot of companies. But where it gets amazing, what it does for you, I think it saves at least 15 hours a week of marketing work for you per week. So could you make the argument that, you would have paid somebody $8, $6 an hour, right? For that, probably, because it does things that a human being can't do. If somebody comes to your website, downloads that VIP offer, right, or is interested in that VIP offer, they give you their email address, it automatically sends them an email 2 weeks later, 2 days later, thanks for doing this. 2 weeks later, hey, do this next thing. 3 weeks later, do this next thing. A month later, do this next thing. And then you can score those leads and see who I should be talking to and what I should be doing. It's pretty magical. Again, you just can't do some of that manually. So, and I really like the minority business play. We haven't used it a lot, but I think right now HubSpot is a business too, and so they're eager to get revenue in. And so I've seen the biggest discounts in HubSpot over the last 3 to 6 months than I've ever seen before. So
that's great news.
Yeah, you should definitely talk to an agency.
Okay. Thank you.
Alrighty, and continuing this topic of digital tools as a lot of businesses move online, we have a question in the chat that says, how can we talk about how digital tools help the food and beverages businesses create a touchless experience with takeout and or in their restaurants, and what tools are easy to onboard?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I can jump in first, and then you guys can jump in as well. But I think one of the biggest things we've been seeing is how to create digital menus. Now more and more you see QR codes everywhere you go. You go into the place and the first thing that you see is a QR code, right? Like, take out your phone. That's the first step you do. And so that whenever you want to order, you have everything on your phone. And so you just touch your phone. Other than that, we've also seen how people the digital flyers, for example, all of this that James was talking about in terms of communication, creating quick flyers, related to the question of which tools, such as Canvas, for example, is an easy to go tool where you can create a quick flyer in, I don't know, half an hour. Adam loves to create those, and he will just open it up, create something, and send it out, right? It's as easy as that. And if you want to just post it in your website, it's fairly easy. You put your logo, you know, a couple of things. You don't have to really be that creative marketing master, and it's an easy go. So as we're saying, those tools, some of them are free as well. Example, Google offers these different things like Google Sites. In Excel, for example, we're used to doing and building many things for just, you know, going right into Google Sites, making it and how it will look like. You press preview and then you got it. It's a website, right? And it's just plugging and playing with the different things there, and you create a mini website, for example. And so finding these types of things, if you don't have a legitimate website just yet, or you're starting to build yours, don't feel suffocated that that's the only way to go and that you don't know coding or anything behind the scenes. There are more friendly websites out there, as James was mentioning before. Wix is one of them, Squarespace is another one, you know, Google Sites, all of these ones. And some of them are free until you get to different levels, but easy to make and easy to play with, iterate quickly and get it out there for it to be digital.
Yeah, I love that. And if I could throw in just a couple more ideas, the QR code reminds me that right now, I'm a futurist, so this is kind of a blessing for us, that I feel like this time has expedited technology, digital transformation by 5 years, probably. So like QR codes, cash, using cash, or not using cash, you know, normal local places accepting Venmo. Like I didn't think that would happen until, you know, 2025. So I'm excited about that. But again, it just levels the playing field. You can do that easily. You can offer that easily, and people will respect that. There's kind of this perception is reality thing. I thought this like Chick-fil-A, they bring out your food in a bucket. I don't know. I live in Seekonk, so I go to that one, and they bring out your food in a bucket when you order it, and so they don't have to hand it to you. Like, of course, they put it in the bucket, so like they like touched it, but like it creates this perception like I'm not touching the thing you're about to touch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is like beautiful. It's just like about 10 years ago. I don't know if you've noticed, hotels started using flat remotes. Do you know how gross a remote is in a hotel? It's like the most disgusting. We did an analysis. It's like the most dirty thing in a hotel. And so people started to read this article. I think CNN or NBC put out this article, and then hotels started changing. And guess what? The hotels, the remotes are still filthy, right? But the flat remote, the perception of that being the story that hotel could tell is, you know, there's a little placard, there's a little sign. It's like, don't worry, we use these remotes and we clean them down. It's which is like, that's fine, but it's the communication of it, the story behind it, the fact that now you care all of a sudden more than this other hotel, right? Chick-fil-A cares more than these other fast food restaurants because they have this bucket, and the bucket didn't cost you anything. That sign didn't cost you anything. You know, that there are those kind of perception is reality things that you could be doing that just adds a little bit to your process, but I think goes a long way. That, you know, the benefits really exceed the time that it takes to do it.
Yeah. Can I make a suggestion? James, next time you want a fried chicken sandwich, you should come to Dorchester to M&M Barbecue.
Ooh.
You won't regret it.
I'll take you up on that.
And on that, just other digital tools. So these days, the point of sale stuff, Toast, Square, a lot of them are they have embedded in them some pretty good online ordering. And so that's a simple way to do the digital, like contactless work. At the same time, it's working as your POS system. So that's an easy one.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them too, if you build it into, I think DoorDash has this model. If you use DoorDash or some of these other tools, they charge less percentage-wise because they came in from your site. And so this, again, just adds incentive for you as a small business to do your own communications, to do your own marketing, drive people to your website, remind customers that they should be coming to you. And so those orders get started from you. You get to control that, not from some other app.
Yep.
just the last one as well. There are a lot of work on tools of making videos as well. Some of you think that to make videos, you need a personal, professional photographer, that cameragrapher, I'm sorry, that would make it happen. But Pujin and other different online tools are now super friendly for you just to, you select your little icons and they, you decide the storyline, and as you click of an eye, you have a video that actually transmits a message to your clients. And so those communication videos are also very easy to make, and multiple platforms offer them for free as well.
Now we've seen a few of the teams use Biteable. I know that the free version has like a watermark on the video itself. You have to pay to get the watermark removed. And then there's Animoto. That is also one that we've seen a few times. But good way to get that, even if it's just the COVID communication, easy way to just show the process and to communicate it in a fun way. Cool. I was informed by Tina that we were going to bring on Teresa and Cecilia to speak a little bit. So let me.
I'll just give a brief introduction maybe on
sounds good.
And Cecilia. So it's good to have you here. I know there's a lot of other business owners here that all have great stories, so we'll see how they flesh out. But I think Teresa has a great story of how Sweet Tea's Bakery, from CommonWealth Kitchen, she's been doing an amazing job on great food, first of all, right? She has great bakeries, and she's really been struggling to see how else, go on digitally and experiencing some challenges there, but she's leaning forward and learning a lot. And the team has been helping a lot with how-to videos and different strategies to make the brand stronger online and other different pivot ideas. And so Teresa, I would invite you to jump in and let us know your thoughts. You're still muted.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. So first of all, I have like the most amazing team of consultants. They're great. I was very upfront with them and told them that like the whole HubSpot thing terrifies me, and Instagram, I only know how to post pictures of cakes. So they were really like great about not only creating tools for me, but really making sure that I didn't have anxiety thinking about like how I'm going to actually implement this when they weren't around. So like in regards to how-to videos, like I really kind of need to know, how does this function? Like when I go in here, thanks for setting up one email, but they also created a how-to so I know how to go into HubSpot and like set up an email to send out to people. So like really kind of making social media less scary, and then also helping me with my customer journey for me to see where there are hiccups, just even with the way that we're operating and the way the website works has been super useful to me. Oh, and hashtags, what? Didn't know about those, but I learned so much. So it's been really great.
Thank you, Teresa. I think it's been a great journey to see how you've been losing that fear little by little. I think it's like removing a little, mask or something that you have in front of you, and seeing that it's, by trying, by learning. And it goes back to that question, Melissa, you were asking before, how much is this supposed to be done by them versus how much it should be done outsourced? And so I think it's a very thin line, but I'm more of the mentality of try and learn to the point where you see, okay, I can do this on my own. I don't need to spend money outsourcing this. But then you get to a point, as James was saying, where, in the house sort of, metaphor that you were using, that you might not have the expertise of further going into detail in some strategy or more things like that. I don't know what could it be. But then that's where you can say, okay, let me consider if I can partner, learn, do more research or outsource completely to someone else and evaluate if I should invest on that, based on what is my need. Because sometimes we bring on all of these different digital tools to create something, but then we don't know exactly what we're creating. So we have to make sure that we understand our offering, understand our channel, who is it that's going to benefit from this? What's our value proposition? And once you have that clear, then it's easier to have a strategy and say, okay, the tools that I need might be this and this and that, right? And so from that, what can I do that I know or that I can learn, and what should I really outsource? So I think that was a great learning lesson with you, Teresa.
Maria, I just want to say I love that. I don't pay an agency to put your hashtags in front of words for you, right? Like you can do this. I promise you can figure out hashtags, and you'll know very quickly once you start practicing it. It's like, oh, this is easy. I could do this. Or nope, this is not for me. This is taking me way too much time. I need to find someone to help.
For sure. Yeah, I love that. Or at least know enough to be able to inform someone else on your team, right?
Yeah, James was putting a great point that is the one that, you know, it's the most important one, is putting on a balance. You know, the time that I invest in this versus the money that takes me to outsource it, because your time is money, right? There's no free lunch in this world. And so your time is very valuable. So you have to understand to what extent you should take it on your own and to what extent you should outsource. Thank you so much, Teresa. You said thank you, and we couldn't hear you, but I could read your
Thanks.
Thank you so much. So Melissa, I don't know, should we invite Cecilia to jump in?
Yeah, I'd love to hear Cecilia's points.
Great. So Cecilia, I did a quick introduction on sort of like the pivots that you're looking with your business, but please feel free to share with us your story. We cannot hear you yet.
We also can't see you.
Yeah, I don't think we can. In the meantime, while she's trying to connect, Cecilia, I would like to invite, if you don't mind. Oh,
there she is. Oh, wow, she has a whole headset. She's ready. We can't hear you, Cecilia.
I think if you disconnect your headset, might be, sometimes computers go crazy. Nope.
All right, can you hear me now?
Perfect.
How come I can't see myself? Wait up. All right, so maybe I don't need to see myself.
You look great. You look great.
Okay, because I've just been a couch potato waiting for this. All right, so my name is Cecilia. I'm the owner of Suya Joint. I can't see myself, but Teresa, thank God we're online, because I was going to fight you to say that Team Suya Joint is like, let me tell you, Team Suya Joint is on top of everybody. So the reason why I'm saying that is for anybody that is thinking about joining this class. Like, this is like an excitement between myself and then Teresa. Teresa is a very good person as well. Anything that I need, she definitely directs me in whatever, any kind of question that I have. She does help me, but yes, go Team Suya Joint. Like, I cannot say go Team Suya Joint enough, in the sense that I keep telling them that they live in my head, right? So I did have as much as I can possibly have, and then COVID happened, and then I went into a shell. I think, like, just like a lot of us, everybody just goes into a shell. What do we do? Where do we go from here? I've spent money going to other restaurants to see what they're doing, and then what can I do within my own self. Never in my wildest dream did I think that just like online or people from Duke University, they're like all over the world, could be able to like put whatever it is that I say on a weekly basis, or they call me, they ask me questions, they'll be able to put everything together. And yes, I do have story to tell about Suya Joint, but since I'm not able to welcome people and then speak to them or give them the African cuisine or the sample of what it is that we serve, just by looking at the menu, it can be like intimidating. But when we were in the restaurant, sit down restaurant, we were giving out little samples so you can taste the food before you purchase the food, versus buying something that you don't like. So we were over there to educate, to familiarize yourself with us, like all those things. But since we're not able to do it, Team Suya Joint came together, and I explained, oh, I've seen people doing like like dumpling classes, any kind of classes, and I have no idea how to start, or even if anybody will be interested in, oh, I want to make egusi and fufu out of my house, and then have like, oh, you know what, I just cooked West African cuisine, and the team just like put it together. And as we're doing it, or as we're talking about it, as they're trying to help me put like a meal kit on my own part, I just got so excited. I'm like, oh, you know what, we can do this. And I think just like how Maria said, if they can't come to me, what can I do to like make sure that this Suya Joint is still in their head, or like the African experience or the flavors of Africa is still in their homes, so that we're not forgotten, right? And then as well as we have this like 2,000 square foot space that I'm like, what do I do from here? Apart from the kitchen, takeout is doing very well. Well, I could just, the extra space that people are not sitting to eat dining, I can start selling like some of the sauces that we're making and doing classes before eventually then, if we do have to go into like, let's say the Stop and Shop, that there's like a whole procedure of what you need to do. So like the space that we have in the restaurant is a very great avenue for us to do. So anybody that is thinking of like, oh, you're confused on what to do or how to go about it, once you are teamed up and the team understand where you're coming from or where you're staying, I'm a true believer. They will just put the things that needs to be put in place. And I think I spoke to them on Tuesday, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna cry because I'm not gonna see you. But they made sure that no, we're always gonna be together. I'm like, okay. I think they teamed you up with somebody that has a lofty dream, and together we can make it happen. So that's just like my excitement. The class has shown me, it has opened my eyes in like so many different ways. So I have nothing but great things to say. And Maria is amazing as well. Everybody is just amazing.
Thank you so much, Cecilia. As always, thank you so much for also your energy and leaning forward more than anything. Leaning forward.
Thank you. I love you, Teresa.
Yeah, no, definitely. And we'll visit you sometime soon. I can't wait to try the fufu and all the great food that you have.
All right, thank you.
So, Melissa, you decide, and Tina, do we have a chance for one more participant?
Yeah, we have room for one more.
Mm-hmm. All righty. So, hard to pick because there are so many people here, and I think they all have great stories. But maybe Sean Rainford, you can tell us a little bit more about Worcester Food Hub. I know Sean basically sources food from different farmers across different areas, and so he's been dealing firsthand, and he has been put into a position where he has had to open a retail space and is going to observing that opportunity as well, and many more things. So Sean, can you please share us more of your experience in this?
Yeah, absolutely. The Worcester Food Hub is a food business incubator as well as a food distributor, and we've been exclusively wholesale until COVID. And on a Thursday, we were having a team meeting in March, and we're like, what the heck are we going to do? All of our customers, which are primarily colleges, schools, hospitals, et cetera, were shutting down. And we were trying to figure out how do we continue supporting small farmers and food producers. So we came up with the idea of a curbside pickup, which that idea was a Thursday. We did our first pickup the following Wednesday, and we've done them every Wednesday since. We've been able to, we started with a simple submission form on our website. We later built a web store, and we've been working on this program to how do we improve our online presence, how do we reach customers better. But it's been the type of thing we've put hundreds of thousands of dollars into local farmers, food businesses. We've worked with Red's Best to help support the fishermen. We've purchased products from folks that work out of CommonWealth Kitchen. We have worked with the folks that have a wholesale license out of our kitchen. So we've been including those items in our boxes and our add-on items. So it's been great. We keep getting asked by our customers, how long do we continue to do it? And the plan is that we plan on continuing to do it. It's been a whole new arm of our business. And we are a team of what was 3 and now is 2. If anybody wants to work really hard for not a lot of pay, please let me know. It's good work. But it's been wonderful. This program's been really great about hopefully helping take us to the next level.
Thank you so much, Sean. I think you're doing a great work, and you have so many different fronts that you're trying to target at the same time. And now it's just 2 of you. So best of luck. And we hope that these different ideas are going to help you really, get that step forward.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Sean. So.
All right, well, we have 5 minutes left. So Maria?
Can we add another person, or how are we?
We can squeeze it in. I want folks to, get as many questions into the panelists as possible. Let's squeeze them in.
Sure. So maybe, I don't know if there are more questions on the chat box, or if we can invite another business owner. I just wanted to pull in Lifan. Lifan is from Big Fin Pokin, and I just wanted him to touch base on the collaboration side of things, because he's been doing a partnership with other restaurants in the mall. He's stuck inside a mall, so he had to, very different challenges on how do I attract people not only to my store, but to the mall to get to my store, right? So another level of challenges. And so he has been partnering with different businesses at the mall to make sure they have loyalty programs as well.
Nice. Well, if he's willing to chime in, there you go.
Hi, Lifan, can you hear us? I don't know if he can hear us.
Looks like he's on mute.
Yeah. If not, the fan going once. Can you hear us? I think it's also he's also struggling on being one of the only members in the restaurant working full time, all day, every day. So probably he's there now. So not sure if he's gonna be able to speak. But in any case, if not, back to you, Tina.
Okay. I feel bad. I want to give him a moment to get himself together. So it's 6:27, and I want to be very respectful of folks' time. So we're going to wrap this up. This has been an amazing conversation. I mean, this has been lively, robust, informative. Like I couldn't write fast enough with all the tips and the digital tools. Like this has been amazing. You guys have been an amazing panel. Maria, thank you so much. Jen, as always, your expertise, amazing. James, it's been a pleasure meeting you and learning so much about you, your business, and the fact that you're a fan of what is it, HubSpot? What is that?
HubSpot, yep.
That's HubSpot, so you've put that out there. And all the other great digital tools. I can't say thank you enough to Melissa. Thank you so much. You have been amazing.
Yeah.
You have been amazing. All of your steps thus far have brought you to just this point to do this for us. You're amazing. Thank you so much. I thank all of you for joining us tonight as an audience. We hope that you will join us again for webinars that we may have in the future. Thank you, participants of the Beyond 6 Feet Apart program, everyone who shared information, questions, and there will be links to our website for recordings of this, as well as so all of this information. If you didn't write fast enough, it's okay. It will be posted for you. So feel free to tap into us at liscboston.org, and you'll be getting an email from us as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time this evening. Thank you for your expertise, panelists. Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, IXL team. We will see you on another night.
Thank you.
Thanks,
so
everybody.
much, Tina. Thanks, Melissa, James, Jen. It's great being with you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night.
September 1st, vote.